The CyberWise Guide to Keeping Our Kids and Us Safe Online. So how do you keep kids safe online? Well, the short answer is to get to know what they're doing. If you've watched the CyberWise Guide to New Media, then you already know that the average 8 to 18-year-old spends 7 hours and 38 minutes using media on a typical day. And because they're so good at multitasking, they actually cram 10 hours and 45 minutes of media into those 7.5 hours. Our kids are spending more time with media than with their families or in school. So if we don't understand what it is they're doing online, then what we have is a pretty big failure to communicate. It's important for us to remember that while the pace of technological change seems dizzying to us, for young people, the underlying practices of sociability, learning, play, and self-expression are the same they've been for hundreds of years. It's just that today there are fewer public places for kids to hang out. So instead, they're hanging out on online friendship-driven social networks like Facebook. Of course, our job as parents is to worry. And one of the things we like to worry about is who our kids are hanging out with. Fortunately, surveys of U.S. teens indicate that most use social media to socialize with people they already know or are loosely connected with. We also worry about what they're doing online. Fortunately, there is good news here as well. A survey from the National School Boards Association reported that 60% of young people use their social networks to talk about educational topics, and 50% talk specifically about schoolwork. But what about cyberbullying? Well, the majority of teens say their experience is that their peers are mostly kind to one another online. However, since even one incidence of cyberbullying is one too many, it's still a concern, along with the issue of privacy. So here are 10 tips that can keep all of us safe online. Number 1, talk to your kids. You don't have to be a tech expert to do this. You've probably noticed that kids are pretty good with the mechanics of using digital devices. However, where they need our help is with the social and behavioral skills needed to use these tools wisely. An important talk to have with your kids is the one about privacy. You can start by telling them there is no privacy online. However, there are some steps we can take to protect our online activities. For example, turn on the Do Not Track tool. Most internet browsers let you turn on a Do Not Track tool to tell sites you don't want cookies installed to track your online activities. You can manage these by tweaking your preferences. So take a look at your settings with your child to see how you can fine-tune them. Read your privacy policies, even though they can be long, dull, and boring. But they're important to read, so here's a tip. This app reads your privacy policies and user agreements so you don't have to, and quickly scans them and flags words, statements, and phrases worth your attention. Never share a password. According to a Pew Internet study, 1 in 3 teens have shared a password with a friend. So here is where they could use our guidance. Explain to your child how to make a strong password by following simple rules like combining upper and lowercase letters with numbers and symbols, and never to include personal information in a password. Keep personal information personal. But the good news is kids already know not to share personal information. Adults actually share personal information much more freely online than kids do. So here's where we can work a little harder to be good online role models. Having your child ask permission before signing up for anything is good policy and goes hand in hand with tip number 7, which is to know how to recognize ads and other mechanisms that the internet uses to try to access our personal information. Explain to your child that every time you sign up for a free site or click on a free offer, they aren't really free at all. We are actually paying with our personal data. Respecting age limits on social networking sites like Facebook is a big issue at the moment because data tells us that close to half of online teens admit to lying about their age in order to access a website. Just like we teach our kids to be ethical, law-abiding citizens of the offline world, let's show them how to extend these same behaviors into the online world. If you haven't already set the privacy settings on your social networking sites like Facebook, this is something you and your teen can do together. Decide who can see what you post online and how people can connect with you. Chances are you'll both learn something in the process. Finally, if you have a child in school, why not advocate for some of these lessons to be integrated into their curriculum? Since we'd never put a young person behind the wheel of a car without driver's education, let's send them out onto the information highway with at least a few rules of the road underneath their belts. The reason for this is simple. The best internet filter in the world is the one right between their ears. If you need help, check out our website where no grown-up is left behind.